Podcast City Network.
Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to another riveting episode of Urban Nerd Weekly. Today is Friday, January the 15th, and it's Season 7, Episode 5. Thanks for joining us again in 2021. In today's Nerd News Update, we're going to be talking about the Hubble telescope pinpointing a supernova blast, entrepreneur and wine expert Gary Vaynerchuk launches a new talent agency, Toka and Razor from Ninja Turtles are back in a brand new comic, and we're also going to be talking about this quote-unquote third stimulus check. Plus, we got the digital download, and today's topic, time to get real nerd talk about this vaccines, y'all. We got to figure this shit out. So, tune in, nerd out, to today's episode of Urban Nerd Weekly. Urban Nerd. Urban Nerd. Urban Nerd. Alright, what's happening, guys? Welcome to yet another episode of Urban Nerd Weekly. As I do every single week, I appreciate you guys for tuning in and nerding out, man. Got a lot on the show today. I already told you guys about some of the topics on today's Nerd News Update. Of course, we also got the digital download coming up. And on today's subject, of course, just rehashing that today's subject is gonna be about the vaccine and the good, the bad, the ugly, and then at the end we're gonna ask y'all to give us y'all opinion on the whole vaccine situation. So we'll ask what you think, but after we go with some facts, because as nerds we got to get the facts first before we can formulate an intellectualized opinion on things. Now, before we get into anything else, I want to give everybody a little bit of a quick reminder to, if you haven't already, subscribe to the show on every single platform available. I'm talking Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and now Pandora. So yeah, man, you guys can check us out on Pandora. Every single episode, this will make 114, guys. Can you believe it? Planning something huge for the 200th episode. We kind of just slid over the 100th episode because we had a lot going on. It was pandemic and all that good stuff. But when we hit episode 200, we're going to definitely do something super major. But yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to the show if you haven't already, and leave comments, like, and rate the show. Let everybody know how you guys feel about Urban Nerd Weekly so they can understand how fucking we're the coolest nerds ever. Yeah, so make sure we perpetuate that. Also, hit us up on the socials, on the social media, the big three, especially that being Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us at Urban Nerd Weekly. No underscores, no spaces except me. No dashes. Straight Urban Nerd Weekly. Y'all can find my girl, Nano Kitty Cat, at Nano_Kitty_Cat on both Twitter and Instagram. And on Facebook, you can find her at Kitty Cat Nano. Make sure you check that page out for all of Kitty's cool ass adventures. But yeah, man, of course you can find me, me being so modest. I forgot about me. You guys can find me also on the big three and pretty much all the social media networks at Spayce Was Here, SPAYCEWUZHERE. Everything except Snapchat is there. If you want to hit me on the Snap, it's A1 Spayce. I have a handful of people on Snap every now and then, so I'll be like, what's good, Snapchat. And for all of our SoundCloud listeners, please, guys, if you just have some spare change, tap that donate button, $1.50, whatever PayPal allows you to send. Goes a lot further than you guys know for the show, man. So we appreciate every little bit of donations that we have got thus far. And we thank you guys very much. And we're going to have some really cool improvements next season because of those donations. So once again, thank you. Thank you very much for that. All right, guys. Now it's time for this week's digital download. In the book section of this week's digital download, first up the bat, we got Memorial by Brian Washington coming out January 7th. We also got Love Almost by Haley Doyle, also on the 7th. We got The Fractured Void by Tim Pratt, Victoria Park by Gemma Reeves. We also call A River Called Time by Cordelia Newland. Also in the book section of today's digital download, we have The Bearhead by Andrew Tchaikovsky. We have Alchemy and Rose by Sarah Mine. All these dates are all these books coming out January the 7th. We got Fleet Elements by Walter John Williams. We also have Having and Being Had by Eula Biss. We also got What Beauty There Is. And last but not least, in today's book section of the digital download, we also have The Coffin Maker's Garden by Stuart McBride. Also was released on January the 7th. On to the music section of today's digital download. On January 1st, Key gave us The Alpha Jerk. Drakeo the Ruler gave us Because Y'all Ass. We also had Jay Stone with The Definition of Pain. R.A.P. Ferreira with Bob's Son. We also had Uncle Murder, Don't Come Outside, Volume 3, and Doe B, may he rest in peace, dropped The Last Definition of a Trapper, yet another posthumous effort for the MC. On January 8th, we got Conflicted soundtrack from Griselda. Jasmine Sullivan gave us Hotels. Black Mayo gave us OMO. G. Perkio gave us the Free EP. And yesterday, we got Hereditary from Second Generation Woo. And today, Nick Caution gives us Anywhere But Here. Frito Bang gives us In the Name of G, Still Most Hated. Uno the Activist gave us Universe. DVSN gave us Amusing Her Feelings. Ashaniko gave us Demi Devil. And that's all for today's music section of the digital download. On to movie time. First up, we got Shadow in the Cloud that came out January 1st. On January 7th, and that was available on video on demand. On January 7th, we got Pieces of a Woman that came out on Netflix. On January the 8th, Amazon gave us Herself, and The Reason I Jumped became available in theaters. On January the 14th, that was yesterday, HBO Max dropped Lockdown, and today we got The Marksman. I'm assuming it's available everywhere. We got Akasa, My Home, available in theaters. American Skin, available on video on demand. The Dig, also available in theaters. Film called MLK/The FBI is in theaters and video on demand today. We also got One Night in Miami on Amazon. Outside the Wire on Netflix. Oh, that's that show with Anthony Mackie. Yeah, I'm definitely checking that out. And Some Kind of Heaven, also available in theaters and video on demand. And that's all for today's movie section of today's digital download. Next up, let's talk video games. On January the 5th, we got Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid saga continues on PC. Oh, I didn't know they had a fucking game to go with the new little Netflix series shit. Oh, that's pretty dope. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of impressed by that. We got Iron Conflict available on PC as well on January the 7th. On January the 14th, we got MXGP 2020 PS5 drop. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game complete edition, available on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, Stadia, and PC. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of got a digital Woody going for that one. I love fucking Scott Pilgrim. It's like one of my favorite shits ever. I recently found out not too long ago that there was a whole graphic fucking series and not just the one that, you know what I'm saying, because I love the movie. The movie was the shit. Michael Cera was the shit. Movie was awesome, and I thought the concept was cool as fuck. And then when I found out there was a whole graphic novel about that shit, I was like, oh, nigga, I am in it. So, you know what I'm saying? If y'all got that game and y'all listen to the show, tell me how that play, because I'm about to get that thing. We also got on January 14th, Hitman 3 available on PlayStation 5, Xbox X, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, Stadia, and a PC. And that is all for today's video game section of today's digital download. Last but not least, I want to talk about some comedy specials coming out, because that's like my favorite section of the digital download, because one day I just can't wait for one of my fucking releases to be in my own show. Isn't that sad? I'm like waiting to be worthy enough to be spoken about on my own fucking show. That's insane. But anyway, on to the next. So our first title in it in the comedy special section is actually from December of last year, but I wanted to go ahead and make sure I mention it on the show because I had actually been seeing all the little commercials for London Hughes to catch a dick. I thought that title was funny as fuck in and of itself, worthy of reaching backwards to make sure y'all heard that shit came out on December 22nd. So if you ain't caught that on Netflix yet, make sure y'all check that out, as well as we just got Chris Rock Total Blackout, the Tambourine extended cut, which is a re-edit of a special he already dropped. But the results have been like, I mean, just watch it. Like, it totally gonna change your perspective on how you even like thought that you was watching people's comedy specials before. Like, it's actually pretty genius. So make sure y'all check out the Tambourine extended cut of Chris Rock's Total Blackout. And that is all for today's digital download. Now it's time, before we hop on into today's Nerd News Update, I just wanted to remind you guys about the network that Urban Nerd Weekly is a part of, which is an awesome fucking network called Podcast City Network. It is an awesome hodgepodge of some of the best fucking podcasts you guys can find online right now. Subjects ranging from wrestling to this show, all the nerd shit. We got Final Score, talk about the sports, and the Everett Lee Show, talking about literally some of every fucking thing under the sun. Plus we adding new shows to the network like every other month, so it's always brand new, fresh shit. As a matter of fact, I think we just got a hockey podcast on the show, and we in talks to getting some more shows up on there too. So make sure you guys log on to Podcast City Network. Actually, podcastcity.net. I was about to say .com. That's not it. It's podcastcity.net. And check out, of course, Urban Nerd Weekly on there. But make sure you guys also check out all of the other awesome shows on there. And if you guys want to support the show, or you just like buying cool ass merch offline, make sure you hit up podcastcity.net/shop to check out all the cool ass merch for every show on the network. You can check out stuff for Urban Nerd Weekly, Podcast City Network merch itself. You can also get stuff from Everett Lee, the Deathmatch Russell podcast, the Chris Carnage show. So many fucking shows, I can't even remember them all. You guys just go ahead and check them all out, and you'll thank me later, trust me. But now, time to slide on over into today's Nerd News Update. First up on today's Nerd News Update, according to ESAHubble.org, Hubble telescope pinpoints a supernova blast. The NASA/ESA Hubble Space Telescope has observed a supernova remnant named 1E0102.2-7219. Researchers are using Hubble's imagery of the remnant object to wind back the clock on the expanding remnants of the exploding star in the hope of understanding the supernova event that caused it 1,700 years ago. The future star that exploded long ago belongs to the small Megalactic Cloud, a satellite galaxy of our Milky Way galaxy located roughly 200,000 light years away. The doomed star left behind an expanding gaseous corpse, a supernova remnant known as 1E0102.2-7219. Because the gases not in the supernova remnants are moving at different speeds and directions from the supernova explosion, those moving toward Earth are colored blue in this composition, and the ones moving away are shown in red. The new Hubble images show these ribbons of gas speeding away from the explosion site at an average speed of 3.2 million kilometers per hour. At that speed, you could travel to the moon and back in 15 minutes. Damn. Damn. Because in bad traffic, it's some places of Atlanta that's 10 minutes away that you can't get to in 15 minutes. Researchers have studied the Hubble archive looking for visible light images of the supernova remnant, and they have analyzed the data to calculate a more accurate estimate of the age and center of the supernova blast. According to their new estimates, light from the blast arrived at Earth 1,700 years ago. During the decline of the Roman Empire, this supernova would only have been visible to inhabitants of Earth's southern hemisphere, and unfortunately, there are no known records of this titanic event. Earlier studies proposed explosion dates of 2,000 and 1,000 years ago, but the new analysis is believed to be more robust. To pinpoint when the explosion occurred, researchers studied the tadpole-shaped oxygen-rich clumps of ejecta flung out from this supernova blast. Ionized oxygen is an excellent tracer because it glows brightest in visible light. By using Hubble's powerful resolution to identify the 22 fastest moving ejector clumps, or knots, the researchers determined that these targets were the least likely to have been slowed down by passage through interstellar material. They then traced the knot's motion backward until the ejector coalesced at one point, identifying the explosion site. Once that was known, they could calculate how long it took the speedy knots to travel from the explosion center to their current location. Hubble also measured the speed of a suspected neutron star, the crushed core of the Doom Star that was ejected from the blast. Based on the researchers' estimates, it must be moving at more than 3 million kilometers per hour from the center of the explosion to have arrived at its current position. The suspected neutron star was identified in observations with the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope in Chile, in combination with data from NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory. So, basically, some shit that happened a long ass time ago, based off of the pictures that the Hubble telescope is able to take, we're able to ascertain what exactly the fuck happened. Now, I'm gonna post these pictures up on the Urban Nerd Weekly Facebook page, because this shit is actually opulently beautiful as fuck. Like, I can't even, like, man, the Hubble telescope is really fucking amazing, because it's taking pictures of shit so far away in the resolution of cameras that we can barely have to take pictures of shit here on Earth. So it's really fucking awesome. If you've never actually heard of the Hubble telescope before, now I implore you to look up the history of the Hubble telescope and, you know, its impact on astronomy as a study as a whole. I mean, not astronomy, astrology. Oh god, now it's gonna be a whole bunch of zodiac bitches on Urban Nerd Weekly dick, because I said that by accident. But yeah, I meant to say astrology. But yeah, outer space is truly one of the only things that are more beautiful than the planet Earth from the far away view. You know what I mean? So definitely dig your nails into that. But on to the next story in today's Nerd News update. That guy Gary Vaynerchuk is starting his own talent agency. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Gary Vaynerchuk. If you're a fan of Urban Nerd Weekly, if you listen to Urban Nerd Weekly, I highly doubt if you haven't heard of Gary V. But quick little backstory: Gary V helped his parents turn their little wine store in Brooklyn into a multi-million-dollar industry, and then he flipped that shit into becoming a wine connoisseur online, and then he flipped that shit into becoming basically a motivational, like, social media motivational speaker after doing a TED Talk and laying the groundwork for like a decade full of non-stop activity on the social media platforms, as well as being an investor, and not only being an investor in some successful companies, but telling his story of how he missed out on a lot of money by not investing on shit that he had the opportunity to invest in a long time ago. And now he is starting his own talent agency. That's right, people. According to entrepreneur.com, and this article was written by shit, doesn't say. You know, I be trying to give motherfuckers credit, bro. Maybe they gonna have their name at the end of the article. Just stay tuned for me giving everybody credit. I'm really, cause you know I'm in school. I'm at Full Sail University now, so I'm like learning about making sure I give everybody credit for, you know, citing all my shit. And since this is my show, I could create my own citation process. I just tell y'all what website that should be on. But according to entrepreneurship.com, in an article published yesterday, Gary Vaynerchuk built his personal brand into one of the most powerful and prominent in entrepreneurship. Now he's officially doing it for others too. Vaynerchuk is launching a standalone company called Vayner Talent, which provides two distinctly different services. One is traditional talent representation, signing clients and then helping those people secure businesses or entertainment deals. The other is talent consulting, providing a suite of services available for a fee to help someone grow their personal brand or promote a product. Talent management is, of course, a crowded marketplace dominated by giant names like WME, CAA, UTA, and others. But Vaynerchuk says he offers something more specialized, and that's the ability to leverage his company's deep knowledge of internet culture and social media, which is very fucking true, guys. In order to build someone's profile and drive bigger deals, do we think that we're able to give advice on how to be on TikTok and Clubhouse and things faster because that's my 15 years of work? He says, we do, and we think that really matters. Vaynerchuk has been on something of a corporate launch spree lately. He announced an e-commerce strategy brand called Vayner Commerce in April 2020 and a new corporate consulting service in November. He says it's the result of a broader strategy in which he incubates new ideas inside his media agency, VaynerMedia, and then spins them out of his out if the opportunity is right. Quote, I'm such a high energy guy, but the truth is that my executions are far more grounded in patience than people realize, he says. Vayner Talent, in fact, began life 4 years ago out of a conversation he had with a colleague named Lindsay Bloom. Bloom had joined VaynerMedia in 2013 following stints at WME and the advertising firm Grey Group. She was fascinated to see how Vaynerchuk experimented with his own personal brand, hiring a team to film him constantly, spin the video out into endless social media content, and then watch the data and refine along the way. In 2016, she and Vaynerchuk had an idea. What if they took those learnings, combined them with strategies from talent management and advertising agencies, and started offering it as a service to others? An experiment was soon born. We started with a small team, me, a videographer, a designer, and a community manager / copywriter. Blum says for $25,000 a month, we offer high volume content production and distribution. In addition to strategy, growth hacking, insight, and analytics for the most relevant platforms and channels, essentially we offer a personal production team to build out an individual's content machine. Now, I ain't gonna lie, that shit sound attractive than a motherfucker. Like, real talk, if I had 25 bands, I'd go and see what a month was like being a client of VaynerMedia. I mean, of Vayner Talent, because this shit does really kind of seem promising. They quickly develop a clientele of primarily entrepreneurs, business executives, and authors. The results were intriguing. As their clients become more visible, they start to receive lucrative offers to speak, write books, work with brands, appear in other projects, and more. We are passing those opportunities off to agents, managers, internal teams, and publicists. Bloom says we knew that there was an opportunity for us to add a talent representation piece so we could build up brands for humans. To seize the opportunity, VaynerMedia did some talent acquisition in 2018. It purchased a leading talent agency called Playbook, and Playbook's founder, Reed Bergman, then became part owner of Vayner Talent. In Bergman, VaynerMedia was getting an experienced hand. He's been in the talent management business for 3 decades, having represented big names and athletes, performers such as Alex Rodriguez, Ray Lewis, Dominic Wilkins, and Jim Courier. And in VaynerMedia, Bergman says he was getting a necessary new way to serve clients. The usual way, the usual way of doing talent deals is somebody has a project for you and you either become a host or you become an actor. You sort of have to fit in, he says. We're actually incubating. We're creating and baking our own content and then distributing. So it really flips it. You take ownership, you finally have equity, unquote. Since 2018, Blum and Bergman have been growing Vayner Talent inside of VaynerMedia. Now they're leading the newly spun out company. Bergman is president and managing partner, and Bloom is partner. Current clients include sports broadcasters Dan Patrick, Jesse Palmer, Rich Eisen, and journalist Nora Tegeri. Quote, our talent becomes the CEO of our organization. Quote, Bergman says, quote, and we give them the opportunity to choose so many different options on how to monetize their celebrity and their brand. This is a powerful time to enter the talent industry, Vaynerchuk says. The media landscape is rapidly evolving, creating new opportunities that are easy to overlook. It's why Vayner Talent puts a big emphasis on a service it calls digital publicity, pivoting away from only seeking traditional media attention for a person or a new product and instead creating attention through online shows with podcasts, YouTube, Clubhouse, and more, and using those appearances as a gateway to even more content. Now that is a dope-ass strategy. They're really putting a lot in this blog, so I can only imagine the secrets they holding back. Vaynerchuk believes influencer marketing is also ripe for transformation. It may seem like the marketplace is already saturated, but he predicts the brands are only beginning to appreciate the power of online personalities. It's kind of like the new radio personalities of the day. If you survey the top 5,000 names in business culture, I would argue that 80% think influencer marketing is overrated by its business impact. Vaynerchuk says, and I believe that in 10 years from now, 95% will be full believers, as a quote. For people who want to grab a piece of that themselves, by, say, building a personal brand and getting signed by an agency like Vayner Talent, Bloom has a few pieces of advice. The number one thing that holds a lot of them back is the idea that everything they put out needs to be perfect, she says. We're constantly saying that perfection is poison when it comes to content. Instead, she suggests setting up a routine. Set aside 5 or 10 minutes every day to produce content. Even if it's far from perfect, if you don't put in the reps, then it's never going to become easy. She says the more someone produces, the more they get to know their audience, the opportunities on each platform, and the best ways to engage. And finally, she says, transparency is key. Self-promotional content never draws fans, but openness, honesty, and genuine connection always do. If you're in the spotlight and if you're going to become a public figure or have ambition to, then you need to own your own narrative and tell your own story, or else it's going to be told before you, Blum says. We're always living in a transparent world, and there's nowhere to hide, so you might as well take control of your own narrative. And that is all of that article. In all honesty, if you just guys want my personal opinion on the fact, Gary Vaynerchuk he's been doing the damn thing for quite some time now. Like, a lot of people think he's a little bit overrated. He's a little brash, a little over alpha. A lot of people think he might even curse too much. But if you check out the groundwork and the fucking, like they talking about the reps he's been putting in year after year after year for decades now, and been spilling the beans and dropping gems the whole time. I mean, his track record is honestly a little bit undeniable. So, I mean, if y'all thinking about doing the damn thing and you just want to relegate all of that responsibility and just worry about that shit, I ain't gonna lie, Vayner Talent sounds like the motherfucking place to be, man. For real. But that's all for that story. On to the next story in today's Nerd News Update. Alright, so do you guys remember the old Ninja Turtles live action movie from like the 90s and shit? And do you remember that scene where they took the ooze that made the Ninja Turtles and they tried to engineer this like wolf and this turtle into these like Ninja Turtle type motherfuckers, but they came big and huge and out of fucking control, and then Ninja Turtles had to whoop their ass? Well, those motherfuckers are back in the Ninja Turtles comic book issue number 113, which is like almost the same amount of issues as Urban or Weekly. Just saying. Like, for real. But the Footskari is back and hunting for some allies to help her mount a renewed attack against the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the recruitment drive begins in January 2000's Ninja Turtles number 113. Kairi searches for 2 powerful mutants who could tip the balance power in New York City. Reads Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 113 description. Meanwhile, a familiar character from the future arrives with a most unusual quest. And all of this and the return of Bebop and Rocksteady. Don't miss the start of an exciting new story arc of Sophie Campbell's return to interior art. And then, of course, GamesRadar.com gives us a little preview of some of the art from the episode. So make sure, if you guys are comic book nerds like I am, make sure you check out the brand new issue number 113 Ninja Turtles out now. And on to the very last story of today's Nerd News Update. We got wind of a third stimulus check coming. Yeah, Biden's trying to step in the dough and make some motherfucking heads turn, ain't he? Shit, according to CBSNews.com, in an article written by Amy Pakichi that came out earlier today, President-elect Joe Biden, $1.9 trillion corona relief plan proposes a third round of stimulus checks for $1,400 for most Americans. Yet while that could extend a helping hand to millions of households still suffering from the pandemic's economic fallout, it could be months until the payment arrives, analyst says. Now, let me be real with you. As an urban nerd, I'm going to tell you, even if we do get this check, the announcement of this check today is to keep us all cool as fuck after the Capitol got stormed while Joe Biden was getting sworn in the presidency. Understand, people. This is all a show. The game is rigged. Flu is a madman. Help us, save us. I'm not talking about Joe Biden. I think he's a genuinely good guy. And I think he's really trying to do some good stuff for us. But as someone who has read everything about the corporate oligarchy that secretly rules us, I know what's really going on. Anyway, the relief package's price tag is likely to face pushback from Republican lawmakers who last year resisted Democratic efforts to pass a $2 trillion bill. Height Securities analyst Hunter Hammond expects the ultimate package to be trimmed to $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion. But most analysts think lawmakers on both sides of the aisles will back the $1,400 direct payment, which economists view as a lifeline for many cash-strapped workers who lost their jobs or seen their income plummet during the pandemic. I am one of them. Support for another stimulus package may gain steam given several developments that point to widening economic distress as the pandemic worsens. According to Ed Mills, an analyst with investment bank Raymond James, a weaker outlet for the labor market with a bigger than expected $1 million jobless claims during the first week of January, as well as a record number of COVID-19 infections and deaths, could push lawmakers to support Mr. Biden's plan for additional stimulus, analysts say. Quote, the market is back to an expectation that more fiscal stimulus is all but inevitable. In the early days of the Biden administration, with the release of a $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, Mills said in a report on Friday, while we anticipate that additional fiscal support remains likely, the timing and scope are very much in flux. Chief among the issues are whether Republican lawmakers could support the package or if the Biden administration would eventually tackle its spending priorities by breaking apart the spending proposals in two bills, analysts say. Here's what analysts are predicting about the $1,400 checks and other spending proposals. Are the $1,400 checks a done deal? Very likely. I don't like the word very likely. I like the word yes. And this is me talking. According to Wall Street and the political analysts, there is growing support among Republican lawmakers for additional stimulus directed toward low and middle income households, with the latest effort to pass $2,000 stimulus checks winning some bipartisan support. There's an 85% chance a scaled down package will be passed in the first 3 months of 2021, predicts Height Securities Hammond. Because of the ongoing support for additional direct aid to households, checks are likely to be included in that similar package. We believe there is support for a smaller package that includes $1,400 checks, more healthcare funding, support for small businesses, and some state and local aid, Mills said. When would I get a $1,400 check? Ask every American ever who wrote this article. I feel like I'm talking like a fucking 1940s like news anchor and shit. American people, this is what the government is saying. America, stop. You're getting a $1,400 stimulus. Stop. You'll have to wait like a motherfucker for it. Stop. Joe Biden is the president and Trump is out. Stop. Celebrate, bitch. Stop. Send that shit, collect. I'm a damn fool. Alec Phillips, who is the chief U.S. political economist with Goldman Sachs, think the package could be passed in mid-February to mid-March. After the relief bill passes Congress, it must be signed by the president. After that, the IRS would distribute the funds through direct deposit, mail checks, and prepaid debit cards. In the first stimulus payments in April 2020, which directed $1,200 to eligible adults as well as $500 per child, it typically took 2 weeks to several months for payments to reach people. The second round of checks with $600 to each eligible adult and child required about a week for the funds to arrive via direct deposit. But in some cases, people experienced delays in receiving the money due to problems with their account information. Based on previous stimulus money payouts and assuming Congress passes a new relief bill by mid-February, the checks could arrive in bank accounts by late February. Although that would likely be a best-case scenario, if a package is passed by the end of March, people might get their checks by early April. The caveat in these timeframes assume that at least 10 Republican senators support the package, allowing for 60 votes in the Senate to overcome a possible filibuster and pass the bill, analysts noted. If the Biden administration cannot muster enough GOP support, the stimulus backers would move to pass it under a process known as budget reconciliation. That parliamentary maneuver only requires a majority vote for legislation to become law, though it can delay passage. Now, do Americans really need the money? Yes, bitch! Fuck you mean, ho? Okay, that was my opinion. Now I'm gonna read y'all what the article says. Signs point to millions of households facing rising financial hardship as the pandemic worsens, which is causing some businesses to lay off staff and cut back hours. In December, hiring around the U.S. fell for the first time in 7 months as the virus weighed especially hard on restaurants, bars, and other service-related businesses. The number of Americans applying for weekly jobless claims, a proxy for layoffs, last week almost jumped to nearly 1 million. The financial need is greatest among the lower income households, yet almost half of households with incomes above $150,000 said they needed the stimulus check for financial stability. According to a recent survey from Credit Karma, almost 6 in 10 households are facing financial hardship. TransUnion found this in a survey in November. The additional stimulus funds will be essential to the financial stability of many Americans, including those who appear to be higher earners, Colleen McQuarrie, Chief People Officer at Credit Karma, told CBS Money Watch in an email. As the pandemic drags on, Americans are continuing to feel the financial crunch. I mean, this is serious shit, man. Coronavirus crisis facts. Coronavirus death toll tops 2 million worldwide. Biden's inauguration to feature economy honoring COVID-19 victims, and Instacart and Trader Joe's to pay workers to get vaccines, and just so much shit going on. And that is all for today's Nerd News Update. Now, before we get into today's topic, I want to remind you guys about a couple of the sponsors for Urban Nerd Weekly. First up, the bat. We got Sweet K's Cakery, man. When it comes to cupcakes, cakes, goddamn cookies, cake pops, whatever sweet ass shit you could think of, especially if you need a bunch of them for like a birthday or a baby shower or a gender reveal or just a surprise party for somebody that you love, man. Holla at Sweet K's Cakery. They do all that shit, man. Very, very much so affordable, and they customize everything to exactly your specifications. Just be sure you're specific up front, and they got you. Next up, we got Creative Customs. When it comes to shoes, socks, drawers, bras, and all, holla at Creative Customs to customize it all. When I say they got everything designer, like, you can literally get anything of anything. You get a Gucci rolling tray from Creative Customs. You could get some Louis Vuitton. You get a Louis Vuitton thong from Creative Custom with your name on it or somebody else's name on it. But be careful, because, you know, if you get your name, you get somebody else's name on your drawers, you got to burn them drawers if you break up with them. But yeah, the only way to have to burn them drawers is if you holler at Creative Customs first. Last but not least, we got Project South. Project South is a program that we've been working with pretty closely over a good bit of time before the pandemic hit, and we're hopefully, after this whole quarantine thing is over with and done for good, we can hit the pavement with these guys again. They are part of they are, and as well as we are a part of the Black Belt Radio Network. So big shouts out to them. Little background on Project South. They are a movement building organization that was founded in 1986 to strengthen the community organization, develop accessible political education, and build people-centered infrastructure in the United States South. Based right here in Atlanta, it cultivates a productive space for social movement leaders, organizations, and collaborations to build people power from the bottom up. Our work is informed by historical legacy and root cause analysis of our social and economic conditions. Project South recognizes the powerful role of media and communications in educating and activating our communities to work for racial, economic, and social justice, and remains committed to developing movement-driven communications infrastructure in the region. Now, today's topic, of course, is the much conversed about vaccine for the current strain of the novel coronavirus, aka COVID-19. A vaccine has been, within the last year, rapidly produced and come to a point of FDA certification or verification or whatever the fuck they do. It's been approved for mass use, and it's actually been getting a lot of encouragement lately from a lot of people to go ahead and take this vaccine, especially people who work in service industry and with the public, like people that work at restaurants, police officers, firemen, healthcare employees. All have been actually in some cases mandated within the coming months to take the COVID-19 vaccine in order to maintain their employment. And we all, of course, know that non-compliance with that will result in even more unemployment claims. It's going to skyrocket. If you guys think, if the government thinks that it's high now, just imagine the amount of backlash is going to, because there's going to be some people that just out of principle of self aren't going to take the vaccine just because you told them they had to take it in order to keep their job. There's a lot of argument on both sides of this particular fence because there are a lot of people in favor of the vaccine being available. A lot of people want to get their lives back to normalcy, and the vaccine is a representation of finally being able to get back to that level of normalcy. So in today's topic, we're going to explore some of the facts behind the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, according to cdc.gov, a website that we visited together before, when the information first came out about the COVID-19 virus, in an article that was updated on January the 5th, here is 8 things to know about the vaccine. Now, there are authorized and recommended vaccines to prevent COVID-19 in the United States. Here are 8 things you need to know about the new COVID-19 vaccination program and COVID-19 vaccines in general. 1. The safety of COVID-19 vaccines is a top priority. The U.S. vaccine safety system ensures that all vaccines are as safe as possible. Learn how federal partners working together to ensure the safety of COVID-19 vaccines, and it's a link that you could click. The CDC has developed a new tool called v7.05 as an additional layer of safety monitoring to increase your ability to rapidly detect any safety issues with COVID-19 vaccines. v7.05 is a new smartphone-based after vaccination health checker for people who received the COVID-19 vaccinations. Now, we could go ahead and cue in some of the conspiracy theorists right now, because sarcastically, tongue-in-cheekly, some of them are going, well, that's just proof that they don't know what the fuck this thing is going to do, because they're even giving it away for them to be able to track the results, because you're the guinea pigs. You're the ones that are going to determine whether or not the vaccine is actually safe. You are the human trial for the CDC to see if this is going to be viable. Now we're going back to the article. 2. COVID-19 vaccination will help protect you from getting COVID-19. 2 doses are needed. Depending on the specific vaccine you get, a second shot 3 to 4 weeks after your first shot is needed to get the most protection that the vaccine has to offer against this serious disease. 3. The CDC is making recommendations for who should be offered the COVID-19 vaccine first when supplies are limited. To help guide decisions about how to distribute limited initial supplies of the COVID-19 vaccine, CDC and the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices have published recommendations for which groups should be vaccinated first. 4. There are currently a limited supply of COVID-19. You know what? Let's go back to 3. Learn about who should be vaccinated first when vaccine supplies are limited. I'm going to click the link. And I'm waiting for my internet to act right, because y'all know the internet do what it want to. Who gets vaccinated first? Now, this is a different article that I got hyperlinked to that was updated on January 8th. Also on cdc.gov. Because the United States supply of COVID-19 vaccine is expected to be limited at first, the CDC is providing recommendations to federal, state, and local governments about who should be vaccinated first. The CDC recommendations are based on those from the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, aka the ACIP, an independent panel of medical and public health experts. The recommendations are made with these goals in mind, which are to decrease death and serious disease as much as possible, preserve functioning of society, reduce the extra burden the COVID-19 is having to people already facing disparities. And while the CDC makes recommendations for who should be offered the COVID-19 vaccine first, each state has its own plan for deciding who will be vaccinated first and how they can receive vaccines. Please contact your local health department for more information on COVID-19 vaccinations in your area. Healthcare personnel and residents of long-term care facilities should be offered the first doses of the COVID-19 virus. Groups who should be vaccinated next are frontline essential workers, people over the age of 75, then after that, people ages between 65 and 74, and then after that, 16 to 64. Other essential workers, such as people who work in transportation, logistics, food service, housing, construction, and finance, information technology, communications, energy, law, media, public safety, and public health. And the first, and if you're just curious as to who the frontline essential worker were, who were the initial, the second group of people to get the vaccine, they're like people like firefighters, police officers, people I talked about before, agricultural workers, postal workers, manufacturing, grocery store, public transit, and those who work in the educational sector as well. Next, as the vaccine increases in availability, it's recommended, recommendations will expand to more groups. So as of right now, all the people I just named are recommended to be the first people to get it, and we assume it's because of the whole ripple effect of them being in contact with so many different people when they work with the public. They, like, if someone in those positions was to get the disease, they'd spread it to a lot more people than someone, say me, who sits at home and makes a podcast and makes video content and is raising a 9-month-old baby. So I'm at home for like 98,000% of the fucking time. If I catch it, I just go sit in another room and don't give it to my family, and no one else, everyone else will be fine. But back to the article about the 8 things you should know. Number 4, there is currently a limited supply of the vaccine in the United States, but supply will increase in the weeks and months to come. I'm assuming this is the amount of time it takes to synthesize it. The goal is for everyone to be able to easily get vaccinated against the COVID-19 as soon as large enough quantities are possible. Once vaccine is widely available, the plan is to have several thousand vaccination offers provided to COVID-19 doctor's office, retail pharmacies, hospitals, and federally qualified health centers. 5. After the COVID-19 vaccination, you may have some side effects. Of course. This is a normal sign that your body is building protection. The side effects of COVID-19 vaccination may feel like flu and might even affect your ability to do daily activities, but they should go away in a few days. AKA, just like the flu vaccination, it gives you the disease, it gives you the illness, so your body learns to build an immunity, and within the vaccine, it's supposed to be the stuff that helps make sure that your body learns to do that, basically, is what they trying to tell you. 6. Cost is not an obstacle to getting the vaccination against COVID-19. Vaccine doses purchased with the U.S. taxpayer dollars will be given to the American people at no cost. However, vaccination providers may be able to charge administration fees for giving a shot. Vaccination providers get this fee reimbursed by the patient's public or private insurance company, or for uninsured patients by the Health Resources and Services Administration's Provider Relief Fund. 7. The first COVID-19 vaccines are being used under emergency use authorizations. Basically, they already got this shit out and they've already used it on a few people in emergency situations, and that was their, that was a real test. From the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, aka the FDA, many other vaccines are still being developed and tested. If more vaccines are authorized or approved by the FDA, the Committee on Immunization Practices will quickly hold public meetings to review all available data about each vaccine and make recommendations for their use in the United States. All ACIP recommended vaccines will be included in the U.S. COVID-19 vaccination program. CDC continues to work at all levels with partners, including healthcare associations, on a flexible COVID-19 vaccination program that can accommodate different vaccines and adapt to the different scenarios. State, tribal, local, and territorial health departments have developed distribution plans to make sure all recommended vaccines are available to their communities. And I think that was a real coded way of saying they have multiple vaccines for the different strands, per se, of this particular virus. Number 8 here, COVID-19 vaccines are one of many important tools to help us stop this pandemic. It is important for everyone to continue using all the tools available to help stop this pandemic as we learn more about how COVID-19 vaccines work in real-world conditions. AKA, we still ain't 100% sure how this motherfucking shit work, but y'all wanted it like a motherfucker, so we gave it to you. So now y'all just gonna have to watch with us to see what the hell happens next. And that's just me paraphrasing. It's important for everyone to continue using all the tools available to help stop this pandemic as we learn more about how COVID-19 vaccines work. I already read that part. Cover your mouth and nose with a mask when around others. Stay at least 6 feet away from others. Avoid crowds and wash your hands often. The CDC will continue to update this website as vaccine recommendations and supply change. And that's all on the particular article from the CDC. Here's one from Johns Hopkins Medicine. Is this .com? It is actually ampproject.org. But it's from Johns Hopkins Medicine's. And it was featuring experts Gabor David Kellen, MD, as well as Lisa Lockhart Maragakis, MD, MPH. Whoo! Fucking people with degrees got some hard ass names and shit, boy. Damn. The United States, the FDA has begun authorizing use of vaccines for the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. Senior Director of Infection Prevention and Gabriel Kellen, MD, Director of Johns Hopkins Office of Critical Event Preparedness and Response, addressed common questions and explained how vaccine could affect the current pandemic. And they asked a plain and simple question: how do vaccines work? Vaccines help people develop immunity to a virus or other germ. A vaccine introduces a less harmful part of that germ or something created to look or even behave like it into a person's body. The body's immune system develop antibodies that fight that particular germ and keep the person from getting sick from it later. If the person encounters that germ again, their immune system can recognize it and remember how to fight it off. Is there a vaccine for the coronavirus disease? Pfizer vaccine was authorized on December the 12th, 2020, and Moderna's version on December 18th of 2020. How will a vaccine prevent COVID-19? They asked. The coronavirus that causes COVID-19 has spikes of protein on each viral particle. These spikes help the virus attach to cells and cause disease. Some of the coronavirus vaccines in development are recognized to help the body recognize these spike proteins and fight the coronavirus that has them. An effective vaccine will protect the person who receives it by lowering their chances of getting COVID-19 if they encounter the coronavirus. Widespread vaccination for the coronavirus means that the virus will not infect as many people. This will limit spread through communities. Both Pfizer and Moderna report that their vaccines show approximately 95% efficacy. Okay. At preventing both mild and severe symptoms of COVID-19. This level of efficacy appears to apply across age groups, racial and ethnic groups, and both sexes as reported to the Pfizer trial. So, how do we know if COVID-19 vaccine is safe and effective? In order to be declared safe and effective, a COVID-19 vaccine must pass certain tests and standards. Organizations such as the National Academy of Sciences, the National Institutes of Health, and the Food and Drug Administration use scientific data from research to help decide if and when new drug and vaccines can become available to the public. It is important to note that you cannot get COVID-19 from a vaccine. Okay. The vaccines contain proteins or other biological substances to stimulate the immune system, but not the coronavirus itself. All right. So, it goes on and on. This is, if you guys want to check it out, make sure you hit up, like I said, the website is called ampproject.org, and it's a page produced by Johns Hopkins Medicine, which is one of the foremost purveyors scientific as far as health knowledge that goes. If you guys were fans of the game, it's where med school didn't go to school at. But yeah, that's all we got on today's topic, man. So the question we have for you today is, based off of the information that we've given you and the information that you've researched on your own, do you think it is a wise idea to get the vaccination for the novel coronavirus, aka COVID-19? Answer that for me, and we'll get back to you on the next episode of Urban Nerd Weekly. I want to give a shout out to my peeps, the Capricornia, the homie on IG. Big shouts out to the big homie Von Roberts, man. Shouts out to my guy Max, aka Richie Rich. Huge shouts out to everybody at Podcast City Network. Big shouts out to Chris. Big shouts out to Everett. Big shouts out to Russell, man. Ripper, everybody over there. Everybody that's been tuning in and nerding out since day one, or if you just started listening to the last episode, man. And big shouts out and RIP to the dopest Capricorn, the dope ass Capricorn. To the homie, we laying her to rest tomorrow. If you guys checked out the last episode, you definitely heard me giving her a rest in peace. The episode was dedicated to her. I appreciate everybody that listened to the show and gave condolences. Like I said, if you guys have already heard the episode, go ahead and back and check it out. I added a little sound clip at the end for a skit that me and her were working on, so you guys can definitely check that out, man. But until next episode, guys, my name is Spayce. I was here, but now I'm